Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for Draped in Gold. I'm Jack Farmer, coming to you live along with a special guest, George Hermoza, old pal from Wrestling Inc., old pal from AfterBuzz TV, old pal from Wrestling in general. So good to see you. Thanks for filling in for that lazy bum Flobo who couldn't make it today.
Thank you for having me. By the way, have you checked this out? It's like a book upon just like the whole thing, Sammy and KO's rivalry dating back like 20, 25 years.
I've not read it. You historically or famously read 16 books a week.
Yeah. In fact, I think I'm going to invite this author on to my channel, the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. We like to talk to authors, but we'll see how that goes.
Already making the best of your appearance here, George. Glad to have you on. Glad everyone else who is joining us in the chat. I have a feeling it's going to be a slow trickle in as AEW Dynamite from Arena Mexico is winding down a bit late as they're getting out of the arena. They're going to be signing on to their phones to join us. So happy to have you all. While we're waiting, let's kill a little bit of time so the people can settle in and find their seats, George. I was on ChatGPT earlier today, and listen, I know, like everyone else, I'm against AI. I hate AI. It ruins the environment. It's taking jobs and all these things. But I still text it every now and then with some important questions. And I asked it, ChatGPT, based on all of our conversations we've had, which WCW wrestler do you think I am most like? And George, you are a wrestling historian. Who do you think ChatGPT says I am most like?
See, I think the typical answer or the answer that you want to hear would be Lance Storm. But I think you're not as boring as Lance Storm because I think you know how to be unserious for a minute. But I'm gonna go with somebody who is no stranger to my channel, the Wrestling Chatter. I'm gonna go with Alex Wright.
Alex Wright.
I think you're going to be somebody that can bust out some dance moves on the dance floor and go into a club and just completely have all eyes on you.
I am a good dancer. I am a wonderkind. Danny Cochran in the chat says Disco Inferno. Listen, I do love myself a little bit of disco, not going to lie. But it's none of those people in the chat, everyone. I want everyone in the chat. Guess who ChatGPT says I am most like, which WCW wrestler I am most like based on the questions I ask it. An interesting one. I'm very curious to see what they think. Wheel 5 Stud in the chat saying, "What's up, gentlemen? George, how are you, my friend?" Wheel 5 Stud.
Is that Joe? Is that Pena?
That's well, we use our chat names here, George, but yes, it is. Danny Cochran and Robert McCarthy coming through. Thank you guys so much. And again, as everyone settles in, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star review, hop in the chat if you'd like, interact with the show any way you like, or be a lurker and just hang out. We love our lurkers. Let's get into the show, though. At the end of the show, I'll tell you who my WCW doppelganger is. I want to talk about.
I mean, it's Glacier, but going off the personality-wise, it's Alex Wright.
That entrance was cold as hell. Love Glacier. I used to play as Glacier all the time in WCW NWO versus the World because he had a super kick.
See, I used to play as a Glacier all the time when it was Mortal Kombat 3 as Sub-Zero. When he took off the old mask.
Oh, I prefer mask Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero 1. He was dominant. He was the best. But George Wheel 5 Stud says, George, since I have you here, and it's been a while that we've spoken about wrestling, I would like to get your thoughts on Worlds Collide. If you don't mind, did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think about it? Well, Wheel 5 Stud, I'm going to cut you off here because we're not talking about Worlds Collide right now. We're talking about another major wrestling show that went down to Mexico, Arena Mexico, Grand Slam Mexico, AEW, bright, fresh look for AEW Dynamite, a raucous crowd in Arena Mexico tonight. I want your overall thoughts and maybe your overall takeaways from tonight's AEW Grand Slam Mexico.
I thought it was a great show. I love this kind of vibe. I love this kind of feel. It kind of reminded me of like those old school WWF shows when they were do like the new things. I remember there was one show in like in '97 where they had the show from like the Berlin, Germany, when they announced the European Championship, or when they had the finals with Bulldog and Owen. And then like later on they had like a show from like South Africa. I just love those new vibes. I love those interesting vibes where they have those kind of shows, because it just adds a whole new element to presenting how pro wrestling is. And I love that AEW went here. I love that they made such a big deal, and they should be making a big deal about having this many people in Arena Mexico, which is it's Arena Mexico. If I'm sure we all know, but I'm going to say it again anyways. It's one of those arenas where like top maybe 4 or 5, if that, maybe even top 3 arenas that every wrestler wants to perform in the entire world. It's MSG, Tokyo Dome, and Arena Mexico. Like if you can if you can perform one of, if not all 3, like Mercedes did, for example,
Mhm.
you're doing something right with your profession. And it's so cool that you had a lot of these AEW guys that again, AEW did not exist 6-7 years ago, and now them doing this, yes, overall I thought it was a great show. I think the moment that I think people are going to be talking about for years and years is Mystico's entrance. I don't
Mhm.
know that song, and I absolutely love it. I loved it. I'm gonna watch clips of it back the same way I watch Bad Bunny's entrance back in Puerto Rico, the same way I watch many other people's entrances back, because I love people's entrance musics and or the presentations and when they come out. And Mystico's going to be one of those all time greats that we're going to be watching back and saying, "Wow, that moment was cool."
I'm glad you said that because I was watching this Dynamite, and the whole time I was thinking a lot about how WWE has really done a great job of going to different countries and getting the great reaction from these fans. And there were certain wrestlers who I think were getting reactions that they weren't getting in the States. And I don't know if it's because the States just got complacent getting to see these
Oh,
people. I don't know.
the American
Like,
wrestling fans are so spoiled, but
but
that's
that's
besides.
and that's the thing, because like there's been people talking about Adam Cole and his aura and whatnot for a long time now. But when he came out, that place was going nuts for Adam Cole. The boom was incredible. Of course, even the obvious ones like Ospreay. But yeah, Mystico is someone I have in my notes here. And it's interesting because the build up to this match, I was very like, I don't know what they're doing here. MJF doing the American hero thing again. I was thinking it's weird because you're in America all these weeks talking about how you're an American hero, but I'm supposed to boo you when you're talking about someone from another company that I don't follow. That's not going to get me to hate you. That's going to, for those of you who are watching, if you're not in America, whenever an American faces a non-American and they say they're doing it for America, it's just in our blood. We go, yeah, go, let's go America. You can't help it. It just happens. And so I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to boo this guy, but once he was there in Arena Mexico, and once Mystico came out and everyone is singing along to
Mhm.
that entrance and he holds up the Mexican flag, I was like, oh, okay. They nailed this. This was the right way to go. And something I noticed, just to continue talking about MJF, is this is just an observation I had, because everyone talks about how good of a wrestler he is, right? And I'm like, what makes him a good wrestler? Because, is people always have these different like ideas of what makes a great wrestler. And what I think I realized watching this match with MJF is there's never more than 3 seconds where he lets pass without doing something. I
Mhm.
mean, he's working a move, he's selling a move, he's working the camera, he's working the audience, he's working the ref, he's working the people like at ringside. He is constantly doing it. The only time he's down is when they're doing like a 10 count and they're on the, the whole point is he's supposed to be down. But every other second, he is making faces. He is doing something constantly, George. And you know as well as anybody, because you've been in the ring, how difficult that is. Let me know. Am I mistaken? I think that's what makes in the ring MJF so great is he doesn't rest a second when he's in there.
And it's not even the resting part; it's making everything matter. Whether it's, I mean, because a lot of people say like it's not the moves that matter. Some people say it is the moves that matter. A lot of times it's what you do in between the moves that matter. It's how you react to the moves, and I think MJF is really good at all of that. And obviously, there's a big part of his personality and the mic skills that really go into his character that make you not like him, that make him do the moves that he does, because he's not out there doing the backflips and the moonsault because he could. We've
Mhm.
seen him do it. He can do all those things, but he does it because he's a heel. So he's very. I feel like he's very meticulous on what he decides to do as far as in the ring. Uh, but like I said, it's just everything that you see in between of what he does, I think is what makes him stand out.
Yeah, I would challenge anyone, go back, watch that match, watch the Mystico entrance because it's great. But then watch that match, and outside of him again, when the refs doing the 10 count because they're knocked out on the outside, watch that match and see if there's 3 seconds that go by at any point in that match where MJF isn't actively doing something to make that match more interesting. It's actually really incredible. Some other stuff that happened on the show I want to get your thoughts on. We had a lot of stuff to cover this week. This was a pretty big week, and you're doing exactly. See, George, we are on the same page here. CEO, CEO. Flobo in the chat, by the way. And before we continue with this, I want to send out a question to everyone watching. Flobo Boyce says Mortal Kombat 3 Sub-Zero isn't the real Sub-Zero. This opens up a whole can of worms because now I want everyone to say, who is the like? I know I'm not
Who's
talking about.
Flowboy Boyce?
I want to know, when you think of Sub-Zero, who is like the king Sub-Zero, the one that's like the best Sub-Zero? I go old school. I go Mortal Kombat 1. When he's uppercutting people into a pit of spikes, that's the best Sub-Zero. But I want to know what Sub-Zero everyone else thinks is the coldest of the Sub-Zeros. But why they're all doing that and that, putting in the comments, putting that in the chat. George Hermoza, you did the dance. CEO. CEO collects another belt. I believe she's up to 6 now. I believe Flobo and I had a bet that she wouldn't get over 5. I said she would. I put the over 5, which means I am correct. But what do you think of Mercedes Moné collecting so many championships? Are you like, this is historic, this is great? Do you feel like she's holding women's wrestling down? Where do you find yourself falling into the Mercedes Moné?
I think she's at 7 because right before she won the CMLL title, she won the Mordos Championship.
Oh, yes. So maybe. I think she had 6 at the end, but I don't know. One belt fell off of her shoulder because she had so many.
But yeah, she won the Mordos Championship, and you've seen him unmask, and I heard that's a good championship to have.
Yes, it's Listen. I'm just saying, under that snarling, snotty, snorty mask might be a dreamboat.
He kind of looks like a Mexican Roman Reigns from just the
What do you say about Roman Reigns with the mask? Are you saying Roman Reigns looks like the Mordos mask?
No, I mean, if anything, because I've only seen Mordos with the emoji on his face, but sometimes you can see this part, or sometimes you can see this part. I'm like, yeah, like he's got the hair, he's got the tattoos, like he kind of, a little Roman Reigns in Mexico, kind of a little bit of a dreamboat.
I'm just saying, he might be a dreamboat, might be classic Beauty and the Beast, right? Once the flower with the petals stays on at the very end, maybe.
I mean, you've seen him without the mask. Who's the beauty? Who's the beast?
I think, listen, all I know is that if Gaston charges in there and the beast sacrifices himself, we will see a handsome prince.
I apologize in advance if I sound like I'm ranting. I absolutely love what she's doing right now, and I think I love what she does for women's wrestling. I said for women's wrestling because she's done so much for it. I was gonna say I don't understand all the hate for Mercedes because she's doing so much for not just women's wrestling but AEW. But I say that because I really don't want to put really any energy because we all know on the social medias there's a lot of hate out there, a lot of just nonsense, and I really don't want to. By me answering to them, I'm putting merit behind of what they're saying because like their opinions don't really matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's why I like being in these kind of conversations. I like being in these kind of discussions because like we I can speak for you. I can speak for Flobo. I can speak for anybody else that's been here. We love pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
We don't sit there and focus on, okay, well, I'm gonna praise my favorite, but I'm going to bash something else. I feel like that comes natural for a lot of people. Like, no, you can like everything, and I truly love it all. So again, I say it mine earlier, so I was like, I don't get where all the hate comes from because she's just amazing. Her in ring work has been phenomenal. We were a little critical maybe like a year ago for maybe some of her like her mic skills. But I think she's gotten so much better in that last year. I feel like she's finally getting into her groove. I like this belt collector thing. I would have liked to seen her maybe face Athena at All In, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe go against Tony Storm maybe later down the road. Because I feel like her and Athena would be great. I know we saw it on Dynamite, but I feel like it should have been in front of a bigger stage, especially at an All In where Athena is from Dallas, and her collecting the ROH before going after the AEW. Because I feel like if she were to win the AEW, which I think is going to happen, the AEW Women's Championship, I still feel like she's going to go after the ROH, and I feel like it's going to be like a little bit of a downgrade. So it's going to be weird. But anyways, love what she's doing. I love she's kind of the modern day Ultimo Dragon that we saw in WCW with all the belts. I maybe we'll see like a Seniano appearance just out of a tribute, But yeah, I love it. I thought the match was great. Um, Kind of like Worlds Collide. We saw a lot of people that we're not really familiar with. By the way, Will Stud, love the show. I thought it was great. Um, that now we are more familiar with Azuxis and the Volador and the Atlantis and whatnot. So now I like that we've seen a lot more of the CMLL people, and I want to see more of Zuxis, because I like what I saw. Maybe we'll see that rematch somewhere down the road on Dynamite or Collision.
Well, Danny Cochran says Mortal Kombat 2 Sub-Zero. Flobo, who's your top Sub-Zero? Everyone in the chat, let us know who your top Sub-Zero is. George, who's your top Sub-Zero?
I'm gonna go with Glacier.
No, you got to give me a real one. What number? What Mortal Kombat number?
I'm gonna go with the original one then. Nothing beats that original. I think it's the original 8. Where it was like
Yeah.
Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Liu Kang,
Oh, that
Sonya Blade,
Scorpion was
Kano.
fire.
Kano, right? That was named
Kano
Kano?
was so good.
I feel like it was 8 of them. Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Kano, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage. Johnny
Johnny
Cage.
Cage. Johnny Cage.
Was there 1 or 2? Was there 6 or 8?
Raiden.
Raiden.
And now I forgot who we talked about.
Yeah.
So I'm forgetting. Reptile was in there as well. Goro, for my dollar, one of the very best ever villains in all of video game history. He put fear in the hearts of children. At least he put fear in my heart. I do want to talk about something regarding Worlds Collide, but just so we can wrap this up. Final thoughts on. I'm loving what they're doing with Hangman, Swerve,
oh my God,
and Osprey and their alliance. And for as much as I don't like the Death Riders situation, I feel like they're doing a pretty good job of making me care about our heroes. It's feeling very Avengers-like in the sense that they're these powerhouses that can't get along, but they're finding a way. What's your take on that?
I love all those little teases. Like and I like that they're not rushing it, because what was it, like a month or 2 ago when you kind of saw the first little glimpse of like cohesion, when they're like, I feel bad for this, and everybody's like, wait, what? Like, is that some? And then they went back to like, no, I hate you too. And they went back, they teased it a little bit like a week or 2 ago when like, I'm never gonna team with them. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, they kind of name drop. I love all those little teases because every little thing that they do really matters. And I love that it's gonna at some point we'll probably, I'm not saying we're gonna see a big hug between them, which would be funny to see. But I do like that it's like a slow burn and you have Osprey in the middle of it. Because that kind of does happen a lot in real life, right? You kind of are stuck between, 2 people that don't like each other and you're trying to play peacemaker. And you can't really choose a side because you don't want to lose either friendship. Like there is a lot of reality in this, and I love it. I love the slow burn, and I love how, then you had Hangman come at the end. Like, yeah, I really, really like this little, it's more so Hangman and Swerve the story, but I like that now you have the Osprey kind of in the middle of everything. So I'm really digging everything that they're doing. Who knows? Maybe we'll have Swerves come in for the save or come in to help out Hangman at All In, causing Hangman to win the championship. Who knows? I'm really excited to see where this is going to go.
By the way, Johnny Cage, Kano, Liu Kang, Raiden, Scorpion, Sonya, Sub-Zero. I think we got him. I think it's only 7.
No, so okay.
Maybe
Street Fighter was 8.
That doesn't seem right though, because it didn't like line up. I don't know.
Well, I think it was more of like a thing. Street Fighter was more like 4 and 4. So I think Mortal Kombat was more of like a squared circle, I guess you can say.
KOD rolling through just in time to let us know what their pick is for
Hi, guys.
the best Sub-Zero version. Which version of Sub-Zero is the very best? Danny Cochran says Hangman needs to give Peter Avalon his mustache back. Shout out Peter Avalon. Do you know Peter Avalon is producing the United Wrestling Network shows, and we have a new taping coming up July 1st. I will be there holding the microphone, whether I'm talking to people individually or talking to the whole audience. We'll find out on July 1st, but you can check your local listings for showtimes.
Peter Avalon, what a great guy.
Yeah.
Like, what a great guy. Like,
I go so far as a swell fella.
I cannot say enough great things about Peter Avalon.
So I want to get to the nuts of today's show, and I want to go back to what Wheel 5 Stud talked about, and this is the reason why I kind of just bowled over that comment earlier, because I want to get to hear, George, time to do what we're all waiting for, and I think what a lot of us were doing in our heads the whole time. Not just dancing. Oh. I want you to kind of compare and contrast Worlds Collide and Grand Slam Mexico. I'm not saying which one's better because I feel like that's going to be subjective anyways, but kind of compare and contrast. What did one do well? What did the other do well? And then I've got a spicy take from Wrestling Inc. pal Matt Coon Music on Twitter about the whole thing that I want to run by you. So let me know your thoughts. Compare and contrast Worlds Collide versus AEW Grand Slam Mexico.
Well, the first thing that I noticed was, and this is something that AEW has never really done, and kind of one of their biggest complaints, even from people that like more intelligent people and on Twitter that I like to, I like their opinion better than a lot of these other people, is that AEW has never really AEW never really been big on, we're going to introduce this to like a whole new audience, right? Because AEW is for the diehards. So AEW fans are already kind of more familiar with a lot of the people that we've seen tonight at the Grand Slam Mexico. And not that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. And this isn't me saying one is better than the other. I'm strictly comparing and contrasting like you asked me to do. And I feel like the Worlds Collide was more of a, hey, let's introduce you to a whole new, because they are aware that WWE fans are view wrestling in a certain way. So that was more of an introduction, right? Again, I love both presentations. There's a possibility that people can actually like more than one thing. I like that WWE said, hey, here are Iguana, here are Eco de Wagner Jr., here are Octagon Jr. Like, here's Brendan, to the point where we're going to have Octagon on Money in the Bank and the title match, to the point where we saw a video package for Iguana the very next day. And again, AEW, they're not really known for that, but again, that's because their fan base is already kind of a little bit more knowledgeable when it comes to that kind of things. So that was the main difference between the two as far as Worlds Collide and Grand Slam Mexico. I thought the matches in both situations were great. Obviously, the pacing of the match is different. That's never been something new than anybody's, as far as things like that. But yeah, overall, I would say that the presentation, I think, of Dynamite was a little more CMLL as opposed to the presentation of Worlds Collide was a little more WWE. Again, not a bad thing. But yeah, overall, apples and oranges, and I like both apples and oranges.
I agree with you on this one. I definitely think that AEW felt a lot like this is AEW visiting CMLL, visiting Mexico. And I think that it made the show feel different in a very great way. And it made it feel like we were watching something that we hadn't seen before here in the States or on a major wrestling show in the States, where I thought WWE did a very good job of saying, like you said, I think that, they did a great job of introducing us to some characters that we'll probably see on TV a lot more regularly going forward. And so both were very different. And I think both were successful in their own different ways. It's interesting they both happened kind of at the same time. I'm kind of close to each other. I'm kind of buzzing about AEW right now because it just finished. Felt like they got a lot of people in, as they love to do. As our old pal Jimmy Cordero says, they love putting potatoes in bags. But I want to read this tweet from Matt Kuhn Music, who we both know from Wrestling Inc.
What a great guy he is too.
He is, and
great voice.
Dude, he has such a good voice. It frustrates me. I'll be like, oh, I sound okay for broadcasting, and he comes on. He's got that like, I can't even imitate it. That deep gravelly voice. I'm Matt Kuhn, and I'm like, oh, I can't do it, but it's fantastic. It's a fantastic voice. But he says, I'm just going to read it, and then I want you to take it away. At Matt Kuhn Music says, WWE takes stuff over, AEW integrates.
I saw that too. I was thinking about that. I saw that tweet, and I was like, what does he mean? WWE is very aware of their positioning in the sports entertainment / wrestling landscape. So I mean, they're very aware that they can probably buy, with the exception of AEW, probably buy any company in the entire world. I don't want to just jump to the conclusion of they want to buy companies to WWE-fy it or whatever, to WWE it up, whatever. Because we still we're going to see how this AAA things go. It just feels like I think AEW just wants to be included in the landscape, right? As opposed to WWE just wants to maybe put like a dome over everything, if that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like AEW is more like they want to work with, as opposed to WWE. They just want to own everything. But it's like they don't really. I mean, they own AAA, but it's more like majority owner, which is funny because Lakers just got sold today, and it's like they didn't sell everything. It's now whoever bought it is like a majority owner of the Lakers, for $10 billion. By the way, I don't know if you saw that. Yeah. So that's kind of what I think he meant, as far as like WWE just wants to take over. But again, we'll see how that goes. We'll see in a year's time how AAA is, and by all means, it looks like more people are interested in AAA now than they were just 6 months ago or 6 weeks ago.
I think it's that's one of the beauties of the difference in companies, right? Is I think WWE, clearly biggest company in the world, biggest wrestling company in the world, doing very well as far as the ratings and ticket sales and all that kind of stuff goes. So yeah, when they do something, they're going to say, do it our way. We're doing it the right way. If McDonald's purchased a restaurant, they would say, you make great fish tacos, but we don't do fish tacos here. So stop that. Where AEW, being the challenger brand, it does have a little bit of that flexibility. Like, yeah, let's do things your way, see what happens. Let's try this weird stuff. And I think sometimes that ruffles feathers because people say this isn't the right way, but that's where AEW is. They're able to be that challenger brand. TNA does a lot of different stuff also. Some of it's successful, some of it's not, but because they're not the industry leader, they're able to do that. And I like to use non-wrestling examples because I think sometimes we get so hung up on wrestling and we can't get out of our brain. But I look back to Coke and Pepsi and the famous new Coke, where Coke was doing great. They're the number one brand. They said, hey, we can make this better. Let's change the formula. And everyone said, boo. And they all stopped drinking it and they had to go right back to the way they were. And even though, fun fact, Pepsi wins almost every single taste test, Coke still does things their way because it's ingrained in us. It's culture now. We buy Coke. That's just the way it is.
What do you like better?
In a taste test, I like Pepsi, but I buy Coke because I'm an American.
See, I'm a big TNA fan, so I'm a big Shasta fan. No, okay, I'm kidding.
They're going to say RC Cola.
Yeah. Good old Royal Crown.
So it's Chicago Cubs threw at the RC Cola. Let's go RC. Chris Bricks in the chat. Good to see you as well. Danny C reposting the stream. Thank you, Danny C. You get a super thank you from the fans. For everyone who's joined us late, by the way, we got 2 games going on. ChatGPT compared me to a WCW wrestler based on the interactions I've had with ChatGPT. You got to try to guess who the WCW wrestler is. I will tell you who it was if anyone guesses it, or I'll tell you at the end, but it'd be fun if you guessed it. Also, we're debating the best version of Sub-Zero. Which Sub-Zero was the best Sub-Zero? 2 things have nothing to do with this week in wrestling, but we're going to talk about them anyways because I don't take notes. George Hermoza.
I'm a chronic not note taker.
But I do want to start talking about the WWE side of things. I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on over there. This is not an AEW post show. We talk about everything. I want to talk to you about the return. Speaking of WCW wrestlers, the return of someone who, man, he was one of my all-time favorites back in the day. I can feel the crowd chanting his name. I know Twitter's upset about it. I know the IWC's upset about it, but I can't help but say it. Goldberg. Goldberg going after the World Championship, challenging Gunther, George Hermoza. The streak continues. Goldberg is going to win the big one.
I know. I saw Bubba Ray's comments, and he was very unhappy with him just getting a championship match just out of nowhere. But the guy's a former multiple-time world champion. Like it's, he had the longest streak in pro wrestling. He's got he's beaten a who's who even for that world. Like if you're gonna sit there and say, he has world championship victories over Hulk Hogan, over Bray Wyatt, over who else did he beat? Kevin Owens. Like that's kind of a who's who of pro wrestlers. Yeah. So and it's fine. I mean, I will be very now if he beats Gunther, by all means, burn the place down. but like it's gonna probably looks like it's gonna be his last match. It's gonna be in Atlanta. The crowd's gonna show out. I don't think we're gonna see. I mean, it'd be cool if it was in the Georgia Dome. That'd be pretty cool actually. Yeah. But it's fine. I think Gunther is gonna have his way with them, and it's gonna be a fun little matchup that we see at a Saturday night's main event coming up in a couple weeks.
Well, you heard it here first. I think Goldberg's winning. I think Goldberg's winning the championship, and I'm going to be there. I don't care if I'm by myself. I don't care if the city's getting torn down. I'm going to be like, Goldberg. Box office bill, as my pal James Kincaid always says. I am so on board with Goldberg getting one more championship.
Will it make a difference if Goldberg defeats Gunther, then gets cashed in on by Seth Rollins?
Not necessarily, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I'll tell you what's going to happen in a second, but for now, I want to stay on this topic because it's interesting. Goldberg Gunther is going to be on Saturday night's main event, which is, as they say on the internet these days, counter programming, all in. And I think it's fascinating to me, George, because now look, retirement match, last time you could see Goldberg, there's a lot of folks like me that I want to see this match. That I'm going to be, that's a real hard match to pass up. But at the same time, we talked about what Bully Ray said. We know the history of people not being happy with someone like Goldberg with the past regime, having the world championship suddenly change hands so that Goldberg could suddenly come in and win the championship or have a championship match for whatever reason. It feels a little bit like you could say that this is the exact kind of booking that pushed a lot of people over to AEW in the first place.
Yeah, I think once he beat Bray Wyatt, I mean, it definitely turned. I mean, it didn't turn me off because I stopped watching, or because I kept watching. But yeah, that was one where I'm like, come on, guys, like really, and yeah.
You know what I said? Goldberg, Goldberg.
I think, and again, I'm just guessing here. I think the previous regime was more a sucker for the moment, right? Like, okay, this is what we're gonna see. We're gonna put him over, and then he's gonna lose it to Roman the next, which ended up being Braun Strowman. I feel like the current regime is more long term. Like if they think that if it's gonna be just like a one-time pop, they rather think of the long-term pop than just a one-time. I could be very wrong. you can be completely right about Goldberg becoming world champion. And plus, like it's funny because I've always wanted to have this conversation with somebody, and obviously we don't have enough time to talk very, very thoroughly.
Bring
But
it.
do you think the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship, the current version of it, do you think they're on the same level?
No.
So, like, do you think, with that said, you have Jey Uso, like, is Jey Uso, is he ready to become, like, is he ready to be WWE champion?
No. I think the WWE Championship is the kind of championship. I think we're only going to see that championship change hands on average once a year. And so I wouldn't expect to see that happen very often. I think the WWE Championship is clearly their number one championship.
Yeah. And it's always been that way.
Yes.
And I say this with all due respect because I'm
throw the
I'm not a
respect out the
hater.
window, George. Come on.
Former world heavyweight champions like Jack Swagger and like Great Khali, former world heavyweight champions, they weren't winning the WWE championship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just feel like, and I don't know if it's like that now or what they're obviously that's our opinion. I don't know how they view it, right? Because I always said from day one, if they were going to add a world heavyweight championship, which they did, I would have liked to just seen former world champions go after that championship, which we saw some, but I feel like there were some that were battling for that belt that weren't. I think like Theory was one of them. But yeah, I'm just curious what other people thought. Because yeah, like Jey Uso. Because I thought when they first introduced that championship, it was more like, oh, now they can have Nakamura finally win a world title. Now they can have maybe like Sami Zayn win that title. I think Sami Zayn's ready to become WWE champion anyways. But at that time, I'm like, okay, now this is something for the ones that are just not 1A or 1B, just maybe like a 1E or something like that, With that said, I say all that just to say, like, if that's how they view it now, then yeah, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if, kind of like the Universal Championship, like I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Goldberg gets a run as the World Heavyweight title, like kind of, Brock had the Universal Championship for a long time, but like, Finn Balor was also Universal Champion. I think we all love him, but him
he was the first one.
Him being
he got
WWE
hurt that
champion.
Day,
yeah. But him being WWE champion just felt like, oh, like, I feel like he's not ready. And even though he could be, it just, I just want to know like what other people think, but also I'm really curious with the WWE, how they view that champion. If they something that like just goes without saying, or like they don't want to admit it out loud. Like, you ask somebody from WWE, like, oh yeah, they're equals, but do they really feel that way?
No, yeah, I think this is probably a pretty rough way of saying it, and there's probably a more elegant way of saying it. But WWE Championship is their top championship. I think the World Championship is what we would have referred to as the Intercontinental Championship back in the day. Those are the guys who are kind of on that cusp of being at the very, very top. And then I think you just kind of go down Intercontinental Championship, then U.S. Championship from there. I'd say is the hierarchy of men's singles championships.
And
is how I would look at it.
I'm kind of curious now because there was just rumblings. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. That they're kind of going to view the unified, horrible name, the unified championship as something like a backup world title. Again, we'll see how that goes. But based on the presentation that we saw last week, it felt very world title-ish when it was Okada and Omega in the ring in the last segment and everything.
That's what I've heard too, and I feel like they say that about every new title they bring in. I don't like the idea of more than one top championship. Yeah. There should be. I always say it's like quarterbacks. When you have two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. If you have two top championships, you don't have a top championship. If every show is your biggest show, then you don't have a biggest show. So that said, though, I do want to get into some stuff that's going down with King of the Ring, and I don't know how your brackets are lining up, but to me, it looks like it's going to come down to a collision course between Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. That's where I'm thinking it's going.
Well, that's the match. That's the next matchup.
Is that the next one?
Because it's Cody and Jey, and on the other side, it's Sammy and Orton.
Well, in that case, either way.
Oh, man.
Either way, my point is, you look at these guys, they're all great fellas.
Yeah.
all the kind of people who could retire Goldberg in a respectable way. So my long-term booking is I think Goldberg wins the championship at King of the Ring. I think Jey Uso wins King of the Ring. And then I think Jey Uso retires Goldberg, gets the championship again, and then we get the rubber match between Gunther and Jey Uso for the championship.
Ooh, see, I had Sammy and Jay in the finals, and I had Sammy winning King of the Ring.
I could see Sammy putting an end to Goldberg's career in a respectable way also.
But I also don't have I don't have Goldberg defeating Gunther at Saturday Night's main event.
I just don't see Goldberg's career ending to a guy like Gunther, who is going to belittle and kind of mock him throughout the process. You know what I mean?
I just don't see Goldberg not retiring in Atlanta.
You know what? I think when that paycheck is offered, when they say, "Hey, Goldberg, here's some TKO money,"
Yeah.
I think he goes, "You know what? I'd rather win the championship in my hometown and lose it in front of a bunch of strangers." Everyone in the chat, am I crazy? Do you think Goldberg has a chance to win? And do you think the King of the Ring champion has a chance to win the championship from him? I think that's an interesting thought. But you talked about that WWE championship. I want to talk about John Cena for a little bit here and Ron Killings and what's been going on with him. And George, I want your thoughts on this because, look, I love R-Truth. I love Ron Killings. And I love what Ron Killings has been able to do. I love the way the fans have latched onto him. But let me tell you something, man. I'm kind of worried here because I love him. But John Cena's got like 15 days left. And I'm starting to worry a little bit. Like, do I want to see the greatest of all times final run be against Ron Killings? Or do I want some juicier, meatier like opponents for him? Do I want to see him going up against people who are like Roman Reigns? I want to see Roman Reigns matches and Cody Rhodes matches and CM Punk matches. I'm a little worried that we're going to use up 15 days with Ron Killings. What do you think?
We're seeing Punk next, supposedly, because anything happens between now and then. The inevitable match with Cody is going to be, but again, matches and dates, like those are different because like the dates,
yeah,
that's whether it's just matches or appearances, right? And obviously we're going to see this Friday on SmackDown against Ron Killings. I don't know. Like I'm personally digging this feud. I'm digging this whatever we're seeing with Ron Killings. I like what they're doing with his evolution of his gimmick, of his character. He's kind of got this like bipolar kind of thing where we kind of see glimpses of R-Truth, but then we really see the Ron Killings person, the character. I dig it. Let's see how over he gets because as so far so good. And honestly, like I wouldn't mind seeing Ron Killings defeat John Cena for the WWE Championship.
I love the guy, but if this is the World Championship, I'd be right there with you. WWE Championship, I just don't know if that's in the cards. And again, I like this. If John Cena was like, I'm going to be here indefinitely, or I'm going to be here until the next WrestleMania or whatever, cool. If we're talking 15 dates and one of them is a match with Ron Killings, one of them is a match with CM Punk, and then you assume 4 shows to promote a match and then a 5th show to have the match, that means 2 more people, right?
We'll see him at SummerSlam for sure.
Will we?
I would think so. You don't think we'll see him?
I mean, I would think, but we got 15 days. 15 events, like you said, he's got to sell the match. He can't just not show up. So if he's showing up, like I said, 4 weeks, I mean, it'll probably be SummerSlam. But like, how many opponents do you think he has left? Actual opponents, like.
I don't think we're going to see him against Styles one more time.
Disappointing, but you're right.
A little bit, yeah. Like I don't know. Do we see one more with Roman? But like, what's the story there? Like he's so. We saw a little dissension with him and Logan Paul at the Money in the Bank. Right. Like they kind of teased something. I mean, I don't really want to see that unless maybe Cena goes babyface. I don't know. Maybe he's got 4 more matches left in him. Who knows? Right.
So like, because they've teased Logan Paul, so it feels like that's there. But yeah, what about a Roman Reigns? What about a Seth Rollins? What about I mean, there's so many people that are such big names that I'd like to see him in the ring with one more time.
Mhm.
That's where I get a little worried about the Ron Killings thing. Is like, I mean, it's one more show, I get it, but like, man, I feel like there's a lot of people I'd like to see one more go around with this guy. I'd like to see him in a match with Jey Uso. I'd like to see him in a match with Gunther. I'd like to see, like, there's so many people I want to see him get in that ring with, and with 15 or so days, maybe it might be 16 or 17, I can't remember, but like, when he starts counting down, you're like, oh my goodness, this is. And sometimes he's on Raw and SmackDown. Sometimes, like, I'm starting to be like, dude, stay away. Like, don't show up unless it's match time, pal. So that's where I'm a little worried about it. That's my concern. But Danny G says anything could happen. Cochran says Goldberg doesn't come back to lose. Brick says Cody will be the final match. Cochran says Ron Killings is going to join Cena. Brick says he'd love to see Roman be the one to dethrone him. A lot of things. Who do you think this is? I'd like to see him face The Rock. This is my fantasy booking. I don't think this was going to happen, but my fantasy booking is I would love to see him in the next match or two lose the championship and have that be a watershed moment for him that makes him realize that he does need the fans and go back to being a good guy. I feel like I think he does a great job on the mic, but I don't believe anyone hates John Cena. I believe we're all just any booze he gets is just us like, we're here for you, pal. You know, you get the thank you Cena chance at the end of his segment. So I'd like to see him say, okay, I was wrong, have kind of that Darth Vader at the very end moment where he realized, you know what, I got to be on the good guy's side. And I would like my personal pick. I think his last match should be against The Rock. It's the final boss. It's their rubber match. And I think John Cena should go out with a win.
I got to tell you, my 9-year-old hates John Cena. He was really mad. He was really mad when he beat Cody Rhodes. Like his day was literally ruined. It's crazy. Yeah, I do think a lot of kids.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one. Obviously, a lot of people aren't really too happy with The Rock right now. I do feel like he's gonna come back at some point and kind of try to make do with the fans. I don't know. I feel like he's gotta save face because I don't know what's going on with The Rock, but yeah, that's kind of like the big thing. Where does he put somebody over in his last match? Does he go on his back in his last match? When is going to be his last match? The rumors sometime they're going to make some event in December. I don't know if it's going to be a Saturday night's main event or some kind of special PLE that they have. Farewell Cena. But yeah. I think he's going to go out as a babyface. I don't think it's going to be Cody. I think we'll see him lose the championship, obviously, before his last match. And then come in as a babyface. But yeah, maybe it is. Or I think that's a pretty good idea, especially with how hated The Rock is at the moment. Not hate's just a strong word, but you know what I mean. And I feel like after the match, The Rock's going to be like, see, it all went according to the plan.
We got to move on in the interest of time here. I want to talk a little bit about NXT, and I want to talk a bit about someone who's new to NXT, but not new to us wrestling fans. Blake Monroe got fatally influenced on her last showing on NXT. She did get through the parking lot A-okay. There were sirens in the background. I don't know if you noticed that, or like lights in the background. I thought that was fun. But I want your thoughts on Blake Monroe, her debut, her first real interactions with people. Tell me a bit about Blake Monroe, formerly Mariah May in AEW.
I'm going to give you, I don't know if it's going to be a hot take, but just if you disagree, then you disagree.
Spicy.
I absolutely love the presentation of Blake Monroe in NXT. That's not my hot take, by the way. I loved everything. I love the animation. Oh my god, I love that. I love that her character is like a little tribute to like a lot of people, whether it's Sabrina Carpenter, whether it's Marilyn Monroe, whether it's maybe even Toni Storm a little bit, even going back to her being, the glamour Mariah May in AEW. Like it feels like a good blend. Love her theme music. I said this a couple times on the Wink days, the Wrestling Inc. days, especially when you were on. I'm really curious because we as wrestling fans, and I know you kind of tweeted it today about wrestling theme songs, and sometimes you'll hear it at the gym. There are some theme songs out there that you just get pumped up for, and just like you gotta get your grind going,
Get your
But
grind going.
I feel like there's some theme songs I'm really curious because we hear Lola Vice's theme song, and
Mhm.
we know it's wrestling. It's Lola Vice's, right? She comes in, you want to come get it, or whatever she does, Um,
Sorry. Come
I'm
get it.
really yeah, she does this little thing and she pulls everybody in. I noticed it. Uh, and I asked you this, I don't think you've done it, or else you would have told me. I'm really curious how some songs would sound like to the non-wrestling fan. Like, I'm really
Yeah.
curious if, like, Blake Monroe's theme song, if you play it on out here as Kiss FM or some other, radio pop radio station, how people would like how it sounds to like the outsider, right? I'm
Mhm.
really curious how that because I heard it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to give Def Rebel any credit because for the good Blake Monroe one they had last night, there was also the really bad Jordan Grace one that got debuted last night too. But again, who knows? I don't know if they did that, whatever. But yeah, I'm really curious about that. But like I said, her presentation is just phenomenal. However, and I say this again with all due respect, I
No,
can't
you don't.
help to think I really don't. I can't help to think that she is way too good for NXT. Like, she is one of those rare people that the day she stepped into NXT, especially when she came in at a time where Stephanie Vaquer left, Julia is gone, Roxanne Perez, they all got upgraded to Raw and SmackDown, that she and I mean this with all the respect to Jordan Grace because I think she's great. Um, like, she's better than everybody already. And I feel like she's too good for them. So I couldn't help to watch. I'm like, dude, she doesn't belong here. She doesn't belong in NXT. Like, and it's to the point where now, when people leave or get unfortunately injured, as much as we feel bad for that person that got injured, or maybe they got fired, or maybe that, went up to Raw and SmackDown, there's a spot that opens up.
Mhm.
It happened to all the greats. There's a spot that opens up. As much as we hate what happened to Liv Morgan, there's a spot that opened up for being as much on TV as Liv Morgan was, right? And I think like Roxanne Perez is probably going to fill that spot. Um, I just feel like now Mariah May and Blake Monroe is that good that who knows if people are going to be able to catch up to her and love me some Soul Ruka, Kalani Jordan, everybody out there, but Blake Monroe is on a whole another level. And I feel like the fact that she came into NXT and she's already better than everybody, I feel like she's too good for NXT and she doesn't belong there.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I agree. Well, first off, I agree. I think she's a star. You and I were saying she was a star like a week into her time in AEW.
Yeah.
She was, and to be, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. When I worked at the Ringer on MacMania, we got to interview her before she was even in AEW, and I could tell
Mhm.
she was a star back then.
She just
And
got it. She just got it. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
uh, so I agree with you on all those points, but I'm going to tell you one of my problems with NXT lately. Um, NXT for a while was my favorite show, but it's become, frankly, the one I am sort of least interested today
Hmm.
watching week to week. And it's because they have had such a turnover. You talk about Vaquer, you talk about the people who have kind of come in and then left. And I look at the new people that have come in from AEW, whether it be Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, now Blake Monroe is the current one, or people from TNA. You've got the Jordan Graces, obviously, whether it be Julia coming in. You've got the connection with TNA and the people who are coming in on the shows week in and week out, like AJ Francis, Casey Navarro, Elijah, Trick Williams on TNA right now. But you also got Evolve people showing up now and being on the show. And it feels like, and I've said this before, it feels like the core of what NXT was has gotten lost. And especially this week, I'm watching, and Thea Hale was once on the precipice of being the NXT champion. And now she can't get past a tournament first round match. You got Kaylani Jordan, same thing. Didn't even get through the first round of a match. And both people were like on the verge of being superstars.
Lola Vice too.
Lola Vice as well, that were on the verge of being superstars. And now I don't buy them. I didn't buy them getting past those first rounds, by the way, because they've been put so far on the back. And as Danny Cochran says, of course, Joe Hendry. And it feels like every few weeks or every month or so, there's a new tournament to declare number one contender, a battle royal to declare number one contender. And what I'm getting at, George, is it feels like NXT is making a lot of the same steps that led to AEW falling off the map and having troubles. Bringing in a bunch of people, forgetting their core group, not keeping anyone consistently on TV the way they're supposed to, having a bunch of championships from other companies or other brands, having a bunch of random tournaments and number one contender matches. I feel like I've lost track of what NXT is supposed to be and who's supposed to be there and what I'm supposed to expect from NXT, and not in a good way, not in a fun, like, oh, it's always surprising, but it's kind of like it's very weird, the parallels between AEW when it started to decline in ratings and to what NXT is providing right now. There's a lot of parallels there, George, at least in my opinion. Am I off base here, or do I have a point? What are your thoughts on that?
You are 1,000% wrong. No, I'm kidding. I think you make up a lot of good points, because these are all things that I thought of too, especially yesterday when I was watching NXT. By the way, I thought NXT yesterday was a great show because it's mostly focused on the women. I think the biggest flaw in NXT is the fact that the women are so much better than the men's division, but that's besides the point. But yeah, I saw that when I saw like Trick Williams with Obafemi. You're like, which championship am I? I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, but I feel like there's one that should always be considered the highest prize in the land. So when I saw them together, I'm like, which one is supposed to be like the bigger star? Which one's supposed to be the bigger championship? I guess technically NXT, because they're on an NXT show, but I like to think that, when they're on TNA, then TNA is considered that. But yeah, it's then you had like, oh God, I always forget his name. I'm so sorry. Josh Briggs's partner,
Yoshiki Unamura.
He pinned Trick Williams, but then he wants Josh Briggs to be it did get a little confusing, and yeah, that's kind of one aspect of maybe too many championships that are featured. But then again,
Unamura, by the way, is a Noah wrestler. So that's another one that's.
Because there was a lot of the same criticism when you had, the AAA mega champion show up, and face Kenny Omega, when you had the New Japan champion, and it's like you had
Ring of Honor champion, and is the equivalent to Evolve, I guess, in this case.
Yeah,
champions on there.
It's something that I just kind of noticed it too when we're talking about it, where you kind of have a lot of people come in, then you have these guys from Evolve come in, and like what happened to Sean Legacy, he kind of had a little 2-3 week push, and now we didn't hear a peep from him on last night's show. But then we saw the swipe right guys and whatever, just I wish there was a little bit more kind of streamlined consistency, because that is one of my biggest pet peeves, even on Raw and SmackDown, when we see guys from Raw show up on SmackDown and vice versa. And, we see it in all companies, but I guess maybe it's just inevitable. So I wish there was a little more streamlining. But with that said, then you have your TNA guys showing up on NXT and vice versa. Yeah, you're actually kind of right. I don't know. I don't know what more I can say that you kind of didn't touch upon, but you're actually pretty correct about that.
Well, everyone in the chat and everyone in the comments, let us know what you think about my harebrained comments on that. Let me know if I'm off base. Let me know if you agree. But it's time to wrap up the show. And George, I think we have most votes for Sub-Zero Mortal Kombat 1 with 2 votes. But now it's time to reveal who ChatGPT, which WCW wrestler I am most like. Do you want to give it one more guess? No one has guessed it yet.
Oh man, so it's not Glacier,
because I should say obviously it's based off of my questioning of it and how I interact with it. So it's not appearance or anything. It's how I act to it.
How you act, huh? Then I'm gonna go with Tony Schiavone.
Tony Schiavone. Fair enough, I guess. But no, the answer is Bang! I got DDP. I don't know. I didn't get it. It said because it had a big long list. I didn't read it. I just wanted to see what the name was. But DDP. They say I'm like DDP. Maybe because my ribs always hurt. But DDP. Before we sign off, George, I've got a couple of questions to ask you. One, what are you working on? Where can people find you? And also your overall thoughts on Will Smith's new song.
I'll go last one first. A different time, because in 1997 that would have been the biggest song of the country right now. It's all right. It's not bad. I mean, I'm still a little, I feel like he's gonna smack me one of these days if I say anything bad about him.
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad. Like I said, it's just a different time. If this was 97, 98, it would have been right up there with Wild Wild West.
High praise.
I love that song. That song is great, by the way. Although the Men in Black was good, but the one from Men in Black 2 was like whatever, like Nod Your Head or whatever.
Men in Black is great. Jiggy with It is great, and Summertime is great. After that, there's a little bit of a drop off.
I was a big fan of Just the Two of Us.
Yeah.
Miami was all right. I was a really big fan of
Miami. Miami's. I like Miami. Yeah. But everyone in the chat, let us know your top 3 Will Smith songs. But George, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, G Hermoza, GHERMOZA. You can follow my wrestling channel, The Wrestling Chatter, that features a lot of this guy. Because look at that face, giving Beast Mortos a run for his money. Maybe you're, I've never actually seen you and Beast Mortos in the same place at the same time.
I could be Beast Mortos. That's how I know he's devilishly handsome.
Yeah, it's gonna be some fun stuff. I gonna have some maybe talk to some more authors and reach out to some wrestlers and see what they're up to.
Yes, everyone, make sure to give the Wrestling Chatter a follow on social media, as well as George Hermoza. Thank you so much for joining us again. Like, comment, share, subscribe. It's very helpful to our SEO and all that good stuff. Leave a comment on the YouTube page. Leave us a 5-star review with a comment. We haven't had one of those in a while, and it's a guaranteed way for me to read your comment on the air. We got, by the way, Danny Cochran saying Summertime, and Danny G saying Men in Black. That does it for us. I'd like everyone to make sure to tune in next week. As we come back, we will have a guest again. Will it be George Hermoza? Probably. But until then, do your best and be yourself.